Today I'm going to be showing you how I built an underground witches coven. This coven is inhabited by 4 witches who have very different and unique personalities and ways that they practice magic. The entire covenstead is built around a underground pool that is disguised as a pond. This is the largest build I've ever done, so I'm going to be breaking this speed build process up into multiple parts. So stay tuned for part 2 coming very soon. So I'm curious if I do the wall tool, how is that? I think that should work pretty good. Yeah, I really like to use the toggle view so that I'm looking at like an eagle eye perspective of my build, especially when I'm doing like clutter items or things like that that kind of require like some fine tuning when you're moving around the lot. From here, I know that I'm going to want to have some living spaces. So let's go like 4 spaces wide, and then we're going to go along the whole left side. I think that's going to be our kitchen and dining area. Then I kind of want it to be symmetrical, so we're going to go 4 on the other side and down the whole right side as well. So now that we've got those spaces in, let's go ahead and put in our bathroom space. So I think for the bathroom, we can probably just do like a 4x4. That should be enough space. Or let's go 5x4 for each bathroom, because each bathroom, we're gonna have 2 bathrooms and they're gonna be shared bathrooms. So 2 Sims to a bathroom essentially. So I want it to be large enough that it's going to like have enough space for everything, but also not feel too large. I feel like that gives me a pretty decent size for the bedroom. They are pretty large bedrooms, but like, even if I make them kind of an odd shape, I think that could work. It's definitely an odd shape, but we'll see what we can do with it. So we're gonna, I think I'm gonna duplicate. That's just gonna make it easier. So I'm just gonna click on the room, duplicate it, then I can rotate it as I need. But I'm still gonna have to draw the other side to match. I'm already liking this shape better. I feel like I didn't want the space to be too big because then it's gonna be hard to fill with stuff. So we're gonna duplicate the room again and rotate. All right, I really like the shape of this. It's got 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a very large kitchen and dining area, and a very large living and rec area. So we're gonna go ahead and put the stairs back in. So I've got my room over the stairs because that's what I'm gonna cover with foliage to keep it hidden. Plus, if I were to leave the stairs without the room around it, then this whole living area would be considered outdoors, and then I would have a really hard time putting certain gameplay items into it. So by putting this room around the stairs, then technically it is still indoors. So I'm now going to move around the rocks a little bit. We're gonna have it just kind of bordering around the edge of the pond. And I'm gonna fill this whole space with trees and different rocks so that it kind of looks like it's in the woods. Something that I like to do right off the bat when I'm working on a build is I will add lighting in because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'll just take the super subtle saucer light and just throw it into each room. I'll go back through and change the lighting later when I have an idea of how I want the room to look, but this at least gives me some light. Speaking of light, we're gonna put some natural light in. So because we're underground, we kind of have an issue with natural light, but we're going to put these really big windows all around the like interior walls of the pond so that we'll get natural light from the outside, and as the Sims are living in the space, they can see inside of the water, which is really cool because I plan on putting like fish in there. Like I've seen the trick on TikTok where you can take an aquarium and size it down and kind of hide it within some rocks, and then you can have like fish swimming around in the pool. So we're gonna do that because it would just be really eclectic and fun, which is definitely what we're going for in a witchy build. So there we've got natural light coming in to the windows, through the windows. We have this kind of corridor that is around the exterior of the pond. And so this is just kind of an open hallway, and this is how you're going to get to every room of the home. But I think what I want to do is probably get rid of some of these walls so that the living areas, the main living areas, aren't as closed off. So I really like taking the wall tool and selecting control, because then I can just drag over to delete the wall that I had previously put. So now it's going to have more of like an open concept type feel. So we're going to do that on both sides. So technically you're going to be able to see all the way to the other side of the house through the pond. Since these are connecting bathrooms, I'm going to kind of do like a Jack and Jill type bedroom idea where we've got doors going on either side of the bathroom. Let's go ahead and pick some flooring. Since this is a witch's coven, I definitely want it to be kind of a natural wood type look. So we're probably going to want to go with like a dark wood. I like that. I always have such a hard time with the wood swatches, because you'll find a wood swatch that looks really beautiful for the flooring, but then you'll have a hard time finding furniture that matches or any of that. So we're gonna have 4 different types of witches in this build, and they're all kind of different, but they're all in the same coven, so they all get along. Since this is going to be a green witch, I want her room to feel very earthy, very natural, and I know just the bed for it. So I really like this one with the dark wood, and now I'm thinking I'm going to need to make the bedrooms bigger. Let's play around with making the rooms bigger. I know, this is my life. Ooh, see, I like that. I like that a lot. That feels like a good size space. So let's go ahead and make all the bedrooms bigger. Who wants to bet that I'm probably going to change the size of at least one room again in this build, because I can't stick with one thing and be happy with it. That looks good. The shape isn't too weird, and I feel like that's a better size. Yeah, we've got a lot more space to work with now. I'm going to use Alt to get her bed frame closer to the wall. I feel like this one's better. It's natural, but it's got this kind of like ornate design to it, which I think is really kind of fits with like the witchy theme. I think I want to have like a tassel rug, or ooh, that's really cute. But then the wood swatches too. It's like I love the variety that we get in woods swatches, but it's almost too much variety. We need more that match. So we'll go with this one. So I feel like for this witch, because she's a green witch, I'm kind of using like a lot of like outdoor retreat and cottage living, because they both kind of have that outdoor woodsy feel. So I'm using the Alt key to free rotate the chair on its axis, and then Alt to free place it as well. So then that way you're not locked to the grid. I'm basically just going to try and add as much furniture as I can, and then I'll go back through and add all of the plants for this green witch. We're going to put the moon mirror. It's like this moon shelf that has like crystals and a plant on it, but it's also a mirror. We're going to put that right above the dresser. I'm going to put this terrarium on her bedside table, but because of the slots that are in bedside tables, it's like kind of automatically clipping. So I'm just going to move it out of the way and then move the terrarium back where I want it to sit on top of the nightstand. And luckily it stays at the same height, so I can just move the nightstand back and it'll be exactly where I wanted it to be. Oh, we definitely have to use the little mushroom terrarium in here. 100%. I'm going to switch this though. I'm going to put this plant on the right hand side and put the mushroom terrarium on the left hand side, since we have our little mushroom stool right here. She is the green witch, but she's allowed to have some oddities in here too. Do I put bookcases? I feel like I put bookcases in any other space when I don't know what to do with it. Altar. That's what we're missing. We need an altar in the spaces, and we might need a desk too. I would love to build a little apothecary for my witches, but there's just not enough like jar type items, but I think this might work. At this point, I decided that I wanted to add a platform to this room to give it a little bit more dimension. And I had also made the room a little bit larger to accommodate for the extra space that the platform would need. My favorite way to do this is to draw either a wall or a fence, and that will kind of section off the area that you can then raise up or down for a platform. And then just doing some fine tuning to get all of the items to sit where I wanted to in the room. And as you're about to see, I generally jump around when I'm designing. I'll start to work on one room and then need to start to work on another room. And this is mostly just because I will stare at something for way too long and kind of get like brain fog and not really know what I'm doing. So I find moving on to another room gives me kind of a fresh perspective when I come back to the original room I was working on. So I really wanted to work on the pond at this point, and I decided to use a little hack that I had seen on TikTok where you size down an aquarium and place it in a basement underneath the room that you're going to have it in. This sizes down the actual aquarium glass, but you get to keep all of the fish and the plant life so that it looks like they're just swimming freely, so that you can kind of create an aquarium wherever you want. For these rocks, I used the same like 3, I think, sets of rocks and just sized them down, rotated them. You can size them down by using the left and right bracket keys, and from there I would just fill in any holes that I saw. Next, for the T.O.O.L witch's room, I wanted to have her bed up on a platform so that I could kind of build a room underneath it, and that's where her streaming area would be. I ran into a lot of issues with this. It's definitely something I've done in the past, but for whatever reason I could not get it to work in this build. So this is where I decided to play around with some of the other platform ideas that you do see in the final build. And let me tell you, this was a challenge in itself. But at this point, I was determined to make it work. So the idea was to have platforms acting as stairs leading up to an elevated sleeping area. The first issue that I ran into was laying out the space correctly and figuring out where I wanted each section to sit at and where I was going to put the couch, the living space, her desk, all of those things. You'll see later on in this video that I run into a huge issue where the ceiling cuts out, so it ends up just being a giant hole in the ceiling, which is actually the ground in this case, to where it was totally exposed to the elements and all of her equipment was getting ruined. And I'm still not totally sure what was causing the issue or how exactly I was able to fix it, but somehow I did. Then just moving on, I wanted to add a platform area to the main living space because I thought it would just give it some more character to have it up on a platform and to help kind of match the other platforms. And here is where you can see those holes in the ground. I think it may have been caused from the stairs, but I'm still not totally sure, and at this point I was so confused, so I was just hitting undo, undo, undo until I could figure out what the problem was. And this actually ended up happening in a few other of the rooms as well, so I ended up having to redo a lot of these rooms multiple times to account for this issue. And once I felt that the issue had been solved for, I went back through and did some more final decorations for the T.O.O.L witch's room, started adding in her L-shaped desk and her streaming setup, as well as some decorations. Because I was running into so many issues, I ended up having to redo the living space as well. It kept deleting everything that I had put in there and moving it into the inventory, so I finally got the issue solved and just started placing all of the decor items back in. I really wanted to have a V-shaped couch because I kind of imagined them all gathering around the fireplace. And I really loved using these beams from Cottage Living to create kind of a custom mantle over this very modern fireplace, which allowed me to freely place decor items as opposed to them slotting into the pre-made slots on top of the fireplace itself. Which I'm definitely a fan of DIYing things in The Sims because then you can get really customized looking pieces without using any custom content. For example, I tried to put a floor lamp into this accent table so that it looked like it was actually a table lamp. Then just throwing in more decor items for their communal altar area. Then I decided to take a break on working on the interior and decided to work on the exterior. So using the landscaping tools to create an elevated little space where I could put the bonfire. I wanted to surround this with trees so that it would look very kind of wooded and hidden. You'll also notice that I took the corners off of the pond to give it a more rounded shape because I knew that it would be easier to place rocks around and have it look more natural. When I'm using the terrain paint, I like to start really slow. If I go too fast and too heavy with the paint, then I find I have to hit undo a lot, and I find it's just easier to build upon. So I start really slow and build up from there. And there you have it. That is part 1 of the Underground Witches Coven speed build. Next time I'll be introducing you to the next witches and how I decorated their rooms, as well as doing the kitchen and some more living space updates. So I'll see you then.